Great morning to you. Hey, you're in the morning Devo with Bo. Had a little stutter there. I was kind of like, where am I? But you're in the morning devotion with Bo Willette at Calvary Christian Fellowship's Devo time. Please do me a favor. You can always share these just to let other people know about them if they do want to get in the Word a little bit and learn a little bit of the Bible in a pretty non-threatening way, that's for sure. We're in the book of Habakkuk. And already Tina's with us, so thank you, Tina, for joining us this morning. Hey, this is your book, so excited to get in there with you. Habakkuk is found in your Old Testament, and it is considered one of the minor prophets of the Old Testament. Very cool book, has a lot of application for us. If you were with us in our first Devo on this book yesterday, man, it was quite impressive, man. There was a lot of interesting stuff in this book. And I'm not going to get into all that again, but I thought it was pretty radical, pretty awesome. So anyway, I know when I started reading the Bible, I really had a lot of presuppositions as far as what was in the Bible. And I really had those biases broken down. And I hope that's what happens to a lot of people as they get in the Bible and they start reading it maybe for the first time. I was one of those people too that, raised in Southern California, you don't touch the Bible, you don't really read the Bible. The Bible's for those weird religious people. But boy, it is a lot different than what I ever thought, for sure. Maybe it will be for you too. So we are now in where are we at? We're in Habakkuk chapter 1. We're going to start right at verse 10. And Habakkuk wrote at a time where Israel had turned its back against God. Israel, the country, had turned its back against their God, Yahweh. And now God says, hey, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to raise up a nation that will come against you. Now, this nation in history was the Babylonians. But I think the cool thing that we saw yesterday was that Israel really wanted to be like the other nations. They really wanted to, in a sense, follow the leader. Jesus said it this way: it's kind of like the blind leading the blind will not both fall into a ditch. And that's true. And that kind of leads me to like the first point of the morning Devo is, who are you following? That's a real important idea, is just who are you emulating? What kind of person do you are trying to emulate? And that really tells the tale in a lot of aspects of what you're going to be like and who you're going to be. Not like in a clean way. Sometimes that's not so much the case, but in a lot of ways, what you behold, you become. If that makes sense, what you behold, you kind of become. If you're emulating, Israel's emulating Babylon and wanting to do what Babylon does, then hey, they're going to become like Babylon. They're going to worship the gods of Babylon. And so here you have Israel that's going from a monotheistic belief in Yahweh, and a very interesting monotheistic, by the way. I won't get into all of the uniqueness of Israel's worship, but it really moved. It really shone the idea that God was very unique in his oneness, in his unity. God had this special unity, this oneness that is stressed within Judaism. Behold, the Lord thy God is one. And Babylon had many gods. And so, you start moving in that direction, you start hanging out. Now, there's another passage in the New Testament that comes to my mind in the book of Corinthians that we went over that says, bad company corrupts good morals. Bad company corrupts, I think, good behavior, that kind of idea. That you tend to, if you tend to look at someone, you go, man, I really think that's awesome. You just go in that direction. And so Jesus, blind leading the blind. So here we pick up where God is kind of speaking to Habakkuk, the prophet of Israel, and saying to him, hey, these Babylon is to be scared. They're not to be your friends, man. These are going to be your enemies. They're going to actually come against you, and they're going to take the nation. What's left of the nation, they're going to take into captivity. So he says in verse 10, they, the Babylonians, scoff at kings and princes and scorn their forts. Meaning, what Babylon's military might was so powerful that they would look at other people's forts, other people's military strongholds, and they would laugh and they would mock at it. They would mock at the kings and scoff at the princes and go, "Man, we're going to work you." And this is the power of uh, negativity, the power of the fallenness of us, the power of what we call maybe the sinful inclinations, and the sinful inclinations that desire to devour our lives, crush us. And they can be outward things, they can be inward things, like sometimes there's fear and insecurity and discontentment and all that stuff that's wanting to devour us too from the inside out, so to speak. And then there's other things that are dangers on the outside. Beware of where we're walking, that we don't fall into the ditch, that kind of idea as well. But sometimes we underplay the power of sin. And the Bible says sin is so powerful, actually, that it's literally destroying us. It's actually causing the decay. It is like a cancer. It is killing us. And so, what God tells Habakkuk is, these people that you want to be your friends and you want to emulate, they're if you go that direction, they will actually devour you. You think they're your friends, but they're going to come again. And the way they look at it is they look at you, and they look at you as like, you're nothing. Man, we'll devour you in a heartbeat. And that's so sad. Have you ever had a friend turn on you like that? Snap, just like that. Maybe a friend turn on you. Boom. You think they're your friends, but they're not. That kind of idea. And here it says that they look at you and they don't respect you. They don't look at you, and you might want to buddy up to them, but and they might let you for a time, but they really don't respect you. They look at you and they scoff and they scorn at you. It says they simply heap up dirt against their walls and capture them. They literally just climb the fort and get you. It's like nothing to them. They are that powerful. And it says they sweep like past wind and are gone, but their guilt is deep, for they claim their power is from their gods. So they're quick. They're quick at their attack at you. They're quick and then they go. And this is this reminds me a lot of junior high, by the way, where junior high is like this. You by peer pressure, you try to kind of buddy up to people that are popular maybe, but then those popular people turn on you, maybe come after you and don't or see you as insignificant. Very junior high way of looking at things, right? But this is not just junior high. It's like we grow up, and junior highers grow up, and sometimes we carry with ourselves the same kind of mentality as we get older. And we start being very manipulative and divisive against people. We can't look at people and love them and have compassion on them. Instead, we literally want to just use them and manipulate for our own positions of power or greed, and that kind of thing. We're riddled with this envy in us. And so it says, it's describing the attack of the enemy, quick. A lot of times our sinful inclinations happen to us like in a snap, very quick. Sometimes, they certainly can be slow-moving things, slow things that we slowly go in a direction. But sometimes it can be where we just make a decision like that, boom. And, but the enemy's always quick to pounce. That's kind of the idea there, right? It says, "O Lord, my God, my Holy One." Now, this is Habakkuk, obviously, crying out to God, right? He's getting this crazy, response from God. So Habakkuk, remember, started it by saying, "Where are you, God? Like, man, I pray and I don't hear from you. Like, there's no answer. Like, you've been absent, So the response was, well, okay, I'm going to answer, but this is the answer. And it's about, of course, the Babylonians. And then in verse 12 it says, "O Lord my God," now Habakkuk's talking, "my Holy One, you are eternal." And it's kind of neat that he calls him my God, my Holy One. God is the Holy One. And I think that's a good thing to always remember in the morning devo, that God is holy. And don't you just thank God that He is holy? I really I really enjoy the Bible. I remember reading it coming from my background and just, reading it from not knowing anything about it. And I thought the idea of God's holiness, His completeness, His maturity, if you will, His perfection, was something that really was neat. I thought it was awesome. I wasn't taken back by it at all. I didn't think like, oh man, God's holy, that's ridiculous. The Bible's not true. I didn't come to those conclusions at all. I thought, man, that's great. I would imagine God is going to be very different from me. And if what makes Him different is His holiness, that is the chief description of His being, God is holy, then that makes sense. He is something special. And that's what I expect the definition of God to entail, is the idea of speciality, something awesome, something gnarly. And so I'm not taken back by the word holy at all. Are you? Are you taken back by that word holy? I'm glad God's holy, man. I hope that there's, again, like the Smiths wrote, the music band back in the 80s, there must be a better world. There must be, there must be a better world, man. I'm looking for something greater. I don't want the same thing. No. So, oh Lord, my God, my Holy One, you who are eternal, the idea of eternity, something that is the opposite of temporal, right? Temporal and then eternal. It says eternal. Is your plan in all of this to wipe us out? Surely not. Oh God, our rock. Now, Habakkuk responds and says, man, no way. We're not going to get wiped out, are we? And then he says, God, you're our rock. Isn't that cool? It's taken from if I remember, a song of Moses back in the book of Exodus, it might be, where there's a song of Moses and it talks about God being a rock. And, that's really an interesting picture, because there's a really neat story, or not a historical story, if you will, of Moses, a narrative in the Bible of Moses and the rock. And you might want to read some of that. You might want to just look up Moses and the rock on Google, and you can look it up a little bit. But here, Habakkuk, I think, is alluding to this idea of He's our rock. He's our stability. He is the giver. He is the foundation, right? He is solid. And this is cool. I like that. God is our rock. What's your rock? What's the thing you stand on? Again, who are you following? And what is your weight on? What is the value that you're sitting on? That's so important in our lives. Many people, it's interesting. We have, people fight over politics all the time, trying to get their ways in. But what is up? Anxiety's up, depression's up, rebellion's up, sex trafficking's up. I'm sure opiates are up. It just, everything's up. Everything's up. Things definitely ain't getting better, as we step into new ways of throwing off the deity, right? As the world throws off the deity, things ain't getting better. Because what is the rock? Now the question comes in is, what is the rock that you're standing on? What is the philosophy that you're standing on? And all you got is people's opinions of what is the better way. This way is better. This way is better. And the people with the most might and the greatest propaganda machines will win the day. That's how it's going to work. And, we will follow the blind. We will follow leaders that will win the day. And so, but what has that done? What is the results? Well, it's just going to be higher chaos, higher atrocities, higher evil. That's what's going to happen, just on larger scales. Now, the Bible predicts this. It predicts it worldwide, that it will get so bad, this kind of propaganda machine, that it will be literally worldwide and it will affect every human being on the planet. Sounds kind of like what we're maybe seeing nowadays, right? We're getting there anyway. We're definitely seeing the foundations of this, right? So, but this says, oh, God, our rock. God is our rock. He's our foundation. Now, that's a good rock because Jesus says, he who follows me will never die. You actually will live. Though you die, you will live. And this is what Jesus promised, is that the resurrection power that rose him from the dead would be with his followers as well. That kind of power would meet those followers too, to pass the veil, if you will, past their death. So God is our rock. He's a good foundation for you to rest yourself on today. I don't know where you're at today, whether you're young, whether you're old, where you're at, but you can look to Jesus to stay stable, and trust in the Word. Read the Bible. Just go through the Scriptures. A lot of people want to interpret the Bible according to the culture or things like that, but maybe just read it yourself and just get into it yourself. Find a church that literally goes through the Bible, and that would be great. What a concept, right? And it says, you have decreed the rise of these Chaldeans, these Babylonians, to chasten and correct us for our awful sins. So this is something that is Habakkuk realizes now, is that the Babylonians are going to be raised up. So the people that Israel were wanting to be friends with are really enemies. And Habakkuk's now realizing that God is using the Babylonians to chasten, to discipline, to correct. Now, again, this is something we spoke about yesterday in our message on at Calvary Christian Fellowship in Hebrews chapter 12. Peter and I, we spent a lot of time on this. But just for our Devo today, we could say, hey, God, nothing's wrong with you chastening and correcting us. What if someone never got correction? What would they be like if you never received any kind of correction? See, correction is a good thing. And maybe our culture is offended always at being corrected. They're offended at offense. But that's unfortunate. And that leads to an ignorance of error. And so you can't be wrong if you're offended at being offended, right? Then you can never be in the wrong. That's what you're saying. Because being in the wrong is the worst thing someone could say to you, is that you're wrong. And so now it doesn't matter what you do on your math test, right? The teacher is passing you because they can't offend you. Because if they offend you for telling you you're wrong, that's the greatest offense today. And so you can see how this philosophy is a nihilistic, narcissistic, nihilistic philosophy of our day that's creating quite a problem because no one can be corrected, right? We have to be able to have dialogue so that we can correct our thoughts and look at things and go, man, you know what? That makes sense. That doesn't make sense. This is logical. This isn't logical. That's a fallacy. That's not a fallacy. We have to look at those. And God wants to correct us, so that's a good thing. Now, he admits something here in verse 13. He says, we are wicked. This is something that's very hard for a lot of people to admit, is that we are wicked. A lot of times we want to think of ourselves as much better than we really are. And Charles Spurgeon once had a friend come up to him and say something like, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but he said something to Spurgeon like, I didn't realize you were such a sinner. I didn't realize that you sinned as much as you did, or you're whatever. It was something like that. And Spurgeon's response was, I'm far worse than you think I am. And I always read that quote and was like, man, that's so good. That's right. I'm far worse than you think I am. And that's right. There is a wickedness in us. And but again, if you can't be corrected, then what? If someone says, hey, well, how you're acting is wicked, that's the offense. Then the person who can't be corrected feels like that's the offense, would be like, well, you can't say that to me. How can you judge me? Blah, 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 right? So you can see the problems we have in our day, right? And that is, to correct someone is considered wrong. Now, the Bible, I found it quite refreshing that it's just called it like it was. Because when I looked at my heart, I went, man, there is a wicked heart in there. There is a heart that's distorted. There is a heart that wants to go other ways, that doesn't care for people, that is callous, that is all about me, and I needed to look at that. And so, the book of John says, light has come into the world. Jesus has come into the world. Light has come into the world. But it says, but mankind, human beings, have loved darkness. I can relate to that. Light has come into the world, but human beings have loved darkness. Man, and if we don't start on that humility, that place of going, man, I'm wicked and I need help from God, then you're in a place of pride. You're in a place of position. You're not in a place of need at all. You don't need a doctor. You are healthy. That's what you're claiming that you are. And Jesus said, I have not come for the healthy, but for the sick. So, Jesus has come for those who understand their wickedness and are in need of help. So he says, we are wicked, but they far more. Will you, who cannot allow sin in any form? Wow. See, God can't allow sin in any form. Man, that's an underlying statement, something about God. He is holy. Stand idly by. Will you stand idly by while they swallow us up? Should you be silent while the wicked destroy those who are better than they? Man, aren't we better than them? Aren't we? Now, Habakkuk's like pleading, aren't we a little better? And he says, you can't allow any form of sin, whether it's in us or in them. That's right. And then he says, are we but fish to be caught and killed? Are we but creeping things that have no leader to defend them from their foes? But must we be strung up on their hooks and dragged out in their nets while they rejoice? So the armies here, Babylonian armies, some of these guys, man, they were known to do some pretty gnarly things to their enemies. Put hooks in them, drag them into the land which they were going. Pretty rough stuff. It says, these are gods who make us rich, they'll say. Will you let them get away with this forever? Will you let them succeed forever in their hearts? So it's basically saying the Babylonians say, hey, gods are with us. They're making us rich. Look at all the lands we're conquering. And Habakkuk says, will you, the God of Israel, allow them to boast about their gods? Will you not attack them and get them because they're saying their gods are better than you? So Habakkuk's like, saying, hey, God, man, get in the fight, man. Get in the gym, jump into the ring and throw up your boxing mitts, man, and go at it with the Babylonians gods. They're claiming their gods are winning. Are you going to let that happen? And that's kind of Habakkuk's how he's talking. And he realizes that God is so holy that he cannot allow sin in any form, that there needs to be judgment. So Habakkuk realizes that that they need to be judged, and he also is pleading that not only do they need to be corrected, but also that God would correct the supposed friends of Israel, Babylon, but really the enemies, and correct them as well. And just in our Devo too, we need to be corrected in our life. It's okay to be corrected. If your teacher corrects you, if your boss corrects you, those kind of things. Hey, we need to learn how to take correction and go, hey, thanks for letting me, saying that, sharing that. It takes time to correct someone too. So we have to be gentle with that. We have to be able to take correction well. And especially when it comes to the Bible. The Bible is a book that corrects us on all accounts, all fronts, and either you're going to sit in judgment of it or you will allow it to judge you. So anyway, Tina, I hope you really got that. Man, you commented so much, which was, man, I have like Tina all over the place. So, and Luis is with us, which is awesome. And we have our pastor brother, if I remember, it was Nigeria, with us as well. So, hey, thank you all for joining on the Morning Devo. We got through chapter 1 of Habakkuk, it's kind of in this tense moment. I'm pretty excited to get into Habakkuk chapter 2. So we'll do that, Lord willing, tomorrow. So be focused a little bit on the day. Remember that our enemies, there are enemies out there, and we have to be very diligent and just be thoughtful. There's enemies within, and there's enemies without. And then we have to realize that God is in the business of correcting and chastening those he loves. And if he loves you, then you're going to receive chastening from your Father. And that's okay. And that's what we want, is God to help and correct. And so, we can rejoice at that. And let's thank God that thanks so much that the Bible says that God is holy, that we have a holy God, a special God, a God who's different from what we know on this planet. And man, that gives me a lot of hope and excitement for something greater and better. So take care, okay? Bye-bye.